Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Asian Psycho, and today I'm bringing you guys another anime review on Puella Magica Madoka, something like that. I keep butchering the name because I don't know, it's kind of complicated. But in any case, the proper name of this is apparently Puella Magi Madoka Magica. I remember it by the Japanese title or the Japanese Romaji title. Um, I think it's called Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica. Yeah, something like that. So I remember like that because I watched the anime of it. I didn't read the manga, just because my friends and I, including protagonist, we just basically marathon the animes. We didn't even bother with the manga, which is what we usually do. Because me personally, I prefer manga because I feel like I can control the pace of how fast I'm going through and whatnot. But just going straight into the anime first is every once in a while is also always great. And I think this time going anime first before manga was actually a good thing. I don't know, it's very rare that I say that, but Madoka Magica was just one of those titles that managed to pull that off. But in any case, just some general background information on it. Madoka Magica is written by Gen Urobuchi, who is, I believe, a very famous art author slash writer over in Japan as far as anime writing, screenwriting, and visual novel writing is concerned. I'm not too sure about the visual novel part, but judging from what I can tell from what my friend Protagonist has told me, who is apparently a huge fan of Gen Urobuchi and knows a lot about him, Urobuchi apparently writes a lot of very, I don't know if I should say depressing, because I don't feel like that does his work justice. It's not exactly entirely depressing, but it's definitely not it's definitely not gonna be happy ending. Oh, everyone's fine and dandy by the end. Nah, he doesn't do that. So he's one of those guys. And apparently, he's really good at doing it, seeing how popular he is over there in Japan. So that's what it's written by. It's directed by Akiyuki Shimbo, sorry, and original character designs by Ume Aoki. And unfortunately, I don't really know a whole lot of the names as far as directing fields are concerned. So just reading these names right off the bat. And without further ado, I guess let's start talking about it. So before we continue, just let me warn you guys that I will be revealing spoilers about this anime. So if you haven't watched it already, yeah, stop stop listening now, because I'm gonna spoil the entire thing for you from what I'm going to talk about. So shoot. Anyways, assuming that everyone who doesn't want to get spoiled has left already by now, let's continue on with this. So just to summarize, Puella Magi Madoka Magica, I'll just call it Madoka for simplicity, is basically about a girl who is technically the strongest magical girl in existence, except she doesn't know about it yet. She lives in a world where, kind of like Earth, stuff like that, but in another Earth where it's secretly run by a system of killing witches and some vague form of entropy that the QB creature describes in the later episodes. In essence, the world is run by magical girls. To a point where QB mentions in one of the later episodes to Madoka, who is the main character, that without the existence of these magical girls and without the existence of QB's kind, humanity would have never progressed beyond being simple cavemen and just beating each other off with, well, that sounded weird, beating each other with bone clubs and whatnot. So that's the synopsis, like the setting of Madoka, basically. And more specifically, the setting takes place in a city called Mitakihara, right? And the main character, like I said, is a pink-haired girl by the name of Madoka. Akemi, no, that's Akemi Home Run. Never mind. Madoka. What's her last name again? I keep forgetting. I only know her first name, to be honest. Let me quickly search through characters. I hate. Oh, Kaname, right? Kaname Madoka. So she's the main character. She's the one with the pink hair. She's as her character design kind of is, it basically portrays her as a very indecisive girl. She's very innocent and um, how should I say this? Very innocent and well intentioned, but she's portrayed as she doesn't really know, like I said, in very indecisive. She doesn't know what she wants to do with the choices that she's given, and it's just she feels like she's too ordinary to have any, special skills or be good at any one particular aspect or field of something. So she describes it herself later in the anime that she was afraid that she was going to stumble through life without really ever knowing what she was good at and stuff like that. And she's self-aware of her own shortcomings, but she's the type of character that she doesn't really take action. She doesn't really force herself to break that indecisiveness until the very end. And I'll give you guys my thoughts on that later. But moving on with this or the synopsis. So basically, that's your main character, Kaname Madoka, and she attends a middle school with a couple other friends. Among them, Miki Sakai Sayaka, who's the blue-haired, pretty cheerful, outgoing girl, and another friend of theirs. Who is she? What's her name again? She's the gray-haired kind of girl who, spoiler alert, in case you didn't realize already, basically takes Kamijo, the crippled boy, away from Sayaka, who likes him, and yeah, basically she's friends with them, and soon she meets up with other girls, among them Tomoe Mami, Akemi Homura, and Kyoko. What's her name again? Sakura Kyoko. So yeah, just gotta take a drink of my amp here. So those five, except for the gray-haired girl, are your main cast. Basically, the story mainly revolves around them being magical girls and going around saving the world, I guess. And yeah, it the setting is basically revolving around them, and that's essentially the setting. I feel really awkward now for saying the same thing over and over again. So let's move on. So the plot, like I said, is basically centered on the fact that the Earth depends on the existence of magical girls who actively fight and kill what are called witches in order to gain these grief seeds. Now, admittedly, I don't really fully comprehend, or if I do, if I feel like I do understand, but I feel like there's some gaps in my knowledge of the overall plot that I'm afraid will screw up my overall understanding of Madoka. But from what I can understand, the magical girls are basically there to kill, the existence of witches, and when they kill them, they obtain these things called grief seeds, and once you get them, you I don't really necessarily remember what they are supposed to do with them, but I do remember that they're supposed to give them to Kyubi, I think, who will take that energy in order to keep the universe running. And that's basically their existence. Now, when a girl becomes a magical girl, what Kyubi does, which the magical girls will find out later to their horror, is that Kyubi will actually separate their souls from their bodies and keep them within these containers that look like grief seeds. And as long as they keep their soul intact, as long as they keep that soul container safe, basically nothing will happen to them. They are virtually immortal. The only way to kill them is to destroy their soul things, and you need to keep them with they need to keep those soul containers with them at all times. And I think QB says specifically, if you're 100 meters away from your own soul container, then your body just stops functioning. You basically become a zombie, and without your soul, you can't function. So it's really important that apparently it's really important that the magical girls keep their souls with them at all times, which kind of makes sense. And in one of the episodes, they find out the hard way. Madoka basically throws her own friend off a bridge by taking her soul gem and throwing it off a bridge, and it lands on top of the truck, and Sayaka just drops. Because she's too far away from her soul, her body stops functioning, and Homura needs to fetch it back for her, and so that they can revive her. So yeah, as long as your soul is intact, though, nothing will happen to you. But as soon as it's gone, well, you're dead. So yeah, pretty fun. So yeah, the world revolves around that, and as for the main storyline of Madoka, it basically revolves around the five girls that I mentioned, the five magical girls I mentioned, eventually coming together in a sense to defeat Walpurgisnacht. It's German for like the night of something. I'd have to look up the details of this, but that's a really hard name to say. In any case, I'm sorry for butchering that, but in any case, that they're trying to fight against this one huge catastrophe, this one really difficult witch to defeat, and they need to somehow get together and defeat Walpurgisnacht, or I know I'm butchering that name, so sorry, but they need to come together and defeat it. The catch is that they never really all come together in a certain sense. In fact, they never do, even though they're supposed to, because QB says that no single magical girl is powerful enough to defeat Walpurgisnacht by herself. It basically takes a group effort, or it takes a single Madoka to blow it to hell. But that's for later. But they don't know that yet. So for the first half of the anime or so, it's Madoka and the gang first getting to know, like immersing themselves in the world of magical girls. By episode 3, though, again, Urobuchi, being the asshole he is, kills off Mami, and that's when they figure out that, hey, look, the magical girl side of the world is not all fun and games after all, because Madoka and Sayaka basically see or witness Mami, who was supposed to protect them and was the first magical girl that they met, get decapitated by Charlotte, I think is her name, and so yeah, not fun at all. And amidst all this, Akemi Homura, who Madoka meets in the first episode, is constantly showing up, telling her not to go anywhere near Kyubi. And I know I'm missing a big part of the first episodes or first scenes where they first meet. How many times have I said first? Take a drink. Anyways, but I'm assuming that you guys already know that part. I'm just going over the most important details that I feel are, most important. And you got Akemi Homura, who's, like I said, constantly telling Madoka, don't make a contract with QB. Don't. And she uses Charlotte's death, or not Charlotte, who am I talking about? Mami's death in order to kind of convince Madoka not to form a contract with QB. And the reason for this, they don't really know. At first, to Madoka and Sayaka, they don't really know what Homura is up to, and because they just see her as some weird girl who just keeps popping up all over the place to bother them. And so yeah, they just keep on doing their thing, and eventually Sayaka forms a contract first, in order to help out her childhood friend Kamijo somebody. I'll just call him Kamijo. That's all I know. And she saves him because he is a basically bedridden former violin player, like a protege, like a really good one apparently, who got into a car accident or something like that, and basically lost use of his legs and the majority of his arm functions. Basically, he can't play the violin anymore like he used to, and he hates that. And in order to help him, in order to prove to him that miracles do exist, Sayaka has QB grant her wish of reviving or healing Kamijo again so that he can play the violin. And and by doing that, she becomes a magical girl, obviously. So she becomes a magical girl first, and Homura, being disappointed in this, I don't know if she does anything as a direct consequence of Sayaka becoming a magical girl, but it's clear that she intends to use Sayaka again, just like Mami, as an example, as example to Madoka not to make a contract. At least that's what it seemed to me. And let's see. After that, they meet Kyoko, who says, "Oh, Sayaka, you're such an idiot for making a contract or telling QB to grant a wish that's not selfish at all. It's like you need to use your wish just for yourself." And Sayaka and Kyoko talk eventually, and it turns out that Kyoko, was just like Sayaka and used her wish to help out her dad, who was a preacher and was trying to preach something that was unorthodox to their doctrine. Her family seems like they were Catholic. Just saying, because when Kyoko mentioned that her dad was excommunicated, excommunication, that usually implies Catholicism. Anyways, so yeah, her dad, presumably a Catholic preacher, was excommunicated, and she wanted him to be successful in terms of his preaching, because she knew that what he was preaching was right, and it's just that no one really gave him a chance, so she used her wish in order to help out her dad, and suddenly, he was getting all these followers, but, after her dad came to understand that his followers were a direct result of some sort of voodoo magic, he got pissed off, lost himself, and then eventually killed everyone in his family. He tried killing Kyoko too, but probably didn't. When he killed her, I'm assuming it didn't work, because, like I said, magical girls are immortal, and yeah, her soul probably didn't get destroyed, and Kyoko just watched everyone die. So yeah, that's all fine and dandy too, and that's why she wants to prevent Sayaka, or that's why she's trying to convince Sayaka that her wish was stupid and she should have done it for something else. But Sayaka tells her that, I don't regret my wish. I don't regret that I use it to save my best friend. She says that, but she eventually goes crazy because of the fact that Kamijo doesn't really recognize her as, what he doesn't reciprocate her crush on him, basically. I mean, why else would she save him, right? So eventually she kind of goes crazy. It turns out that eventually magical girls will all have the same fate of degenerating into witches, and they themselves will be killed by other magical girls who come to take their place. And so yeah, they themselves are fed into the system of entropy and witches and all that dirty stuff. And Kyoko fulfills that role, but in doing so, she basically sacrifices herself in an effort to, I guess, be with Sayaka. And so yeah, they all die. Pretty abrupt there. And after that, it's revealed that Homura is actually a time traveler. Not in the sense of, oh, hey, look, I'm going to just basically rewind time to a certain point, just, that's that. Her power of time travel is actually traversing parallel universes. And by doing so, she inadvertently turns Madoka into the strongest magical girl that has ever been in existence. And as a direct side result, she actually makes Madoka from like a strong-willed, girl of action, because when the anime starts going into Homura's arc, like what she's been doing, it's revealed, like you can tell that Madoka was a very strong-headed, strong-willed girl, and she was, she was the one who taught Madoka, or she was Madoka's best friend, and it's revealed that Madoka is Homura contracted with QB in order to save Madoka. Like, that was her wish, in order to save Magica by the end of what I call the real world, like the first timeline. And when she did that, she started the loops. and the loops are basically the parallel universes. And I think she's done it for like at least, it's gonna be at least 4 or 5 times. Every time she does that, though, what she does is she ties that parallel universe that she just jumped from into the concept of Madoka. And with the anime describes it relatively well. Homura basically puts Madoka at the center of a web, and each string is a different timeline. She's constantly doing that over and over to the point where Madoka, she directly alters Madoka's overall personality and overall like kind of like a will sort of, and but she also turns her into the strongest, like I said, the strongest magical girl of all time. Even QB says so. Even Mommy says so. And yeah, every time she does that, she's failed. She's failed to defeat Walpurgis Nacht either by herself or with the other magical girls that we've mentioned thus far. And she's constantly doing that. And she's determined that one timeline eventually she'll finish. But at the latest timeline, Madoka comes to her rescue and says, "Look, I've seen everything that you've done for me. Like, it's enough." And basically, by breaking Homura's wish for herself, Madoka contracts with QB and basically, like I said, becomes the strongest magical girl ever. But her wish is to destroy every single magical girl, or what was her dream again? It was to destroy every single witch before they were even created. And in doing so, that obviously implies that she has the power to break a certain concept, like a law of the world itself. And she can do that as a direct result of Homura's constant time weaving with her in the middle. Like we said, everyone considers Madoka to be the strongest Mahou Shoujo ever. So she's able to do that, and by doing that, she erases the law of witches and magical girls. At the very least, the tendency of magical girls to or the fate, I should say, the fate of magical girls turning into witches. She erases that completely, and in doing so, she turns herself into a goddess in order to counter the witch that comes out of herself. And that being said, obviously, if she becomes a goddess, she sacrifices her humanity in order to transcend reality itself. She becomes basically a fourth dimension. A sort of god, if you will. She's not complete god, but close enough to the point where she is omniscient, she's omnipresent, I believe, and she, basically becomes a concept to the human thought. And the anime ends where Homura is turning into a witch in order to fight the new kind of quote-unquote marks witches, which are called demons, I think. And presumably the end of the anime depicts the end of the world, but that's just me going, speculating about that. So I just spent the last 20 minutes or so, giving you a very lengthy synopsis that I probably wasted more time on talking about and whatnot, so I do apologize. So let's move on to actually what I thought were good and what I thought were bad and what I thought should have happened differently about Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica. First, let's talk about what were good. Let's see here. The biggest thing that I like about Madoka was the fact that it showed it's not your conventional magical girl anime at all. We all know that cliche of animes or mangas usually depicting magical girls. We think of it as just like, it's just a lighthearted anime. They just go around defeating crime and evil, and everyone's happy at the end. Again, Urobuchi, being the dick he is, says, no, fuck that. We're going to make everyone suffer. And that's what he does. He makes every single main character fucking suffer. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But the fact that, Madoka Magica, is not your conventional just lighthearted, funsy doodles magical girl anime at all. Is definitely very refreshing. It's refreshing, to be honest. It's very refreshing. And I mean, honestly, I would like to see more animes that have magical girl as their main genre or main topic. Do more of this Puella or this Madoka style, where it shows the inner workings, to be to put it in one way, the inner workings of the magical girl world. Like, I don't really like other animes that involve magical girls. They don't they explain, like, the whole system. They explain the powers and whatnot, but they don't really explain what goes on the behind the scenes, in my opinion. I feel like Madoka Magica shows you, what is a possibility of a magical world scenario. Like, we don't really know the dirty truth behind magical girls. They just become one, and they're like, oh yeah, we are a magical girl. We get to go around beating people up and shit. Madoka shows you the down and dirty truth, or what could be a truth of such a world. And the fact that they elaborate on that instead of focusing on actual powers of the characters is, I think, a pretty good innovation, I should say. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's been done before, but this is the first one that I've seen that does it well, and I'm really happy about that. I'm definitely very happy that they do this. And another thing that I really like about Madoka is that there is everyone hates QB. Everyone freaking hates QB, and it's understandable. QB in their human perspective is a complete douchebag. He has no emotion because he's physically incapable of having emotion. He explains himself. He and his kind do not have something called emotion. In fact, they consider it a psychological anomaly and a disorder, so they get rid of that from their own kind. And everyone, because of his actions, because of his machinations, because of his manipulations, a lot of people who are fans of the anime completely hate him. They hate his character, they hate what he stands for, they just hate him in general. And in fact, on Dambaru, which is an image hosting site for a lot of Japanese artwork, or Japanese artist, artwork, there's an entire pool dedicated to everybody hates QB, and all the pictures in there are basically images that depict QB being killed or being maimed in some way. And a lot of the comments in those pictures say, oh, kill him more, he hasn't died enough yet. And I mean, honestly, while I too can definitely see, hey, he's a douchebag, I can understand people who hate him really want him to die a lot more. But that's what makes Madoka. He almost single-handedly makes Madoka the way it is. He gives Madoka that certain charm that separates it from other like other magic girl titles, and even other animes. It's like, in general, the fact that a character like QB even exists is fascinating, because he is technically the main antagonist, but also an antagonist that the main characters really need to depend upon. They can't kill him, they can't do anything to him, because he's, if they kill him once, he's gonna come back and eat his dead body. And other than that, he's the one who gives them the power. He's the one who gives them their wishes. He grants them their wishes, and in a sense, he's kind of like an alternate god, but a god in a sense where it's a very selfish god. Definitely. It's very selfish, but I say that in a very loose way, in a loose term, because he's doing it for selfish reasons, but also in order to preserve the condition of the universe. I mean, he makes it clear he's doing it for the universe. And the overall, I really like QB's role and his overall character design. You can't do anything about him. you can hate him as much as you want. You can do whatever you want to him. He's always gonna come back, and you're going to need him at one point or another. I mean, he helps you if you ask him questions. He's not gonna. I think he can't lie to you if you ask him a certain question. Like when when the girls first figure out like, oh, the truth behind their soul gems. QB mentioned them. Well, none of you really asked, so that's why I didn't tell you. So that goes on to show that he can be a savior, or he can be an angel, or he can be he can be a devil, depending on how you work with him. He manipulates you to a sense, but also if you know how to talk to him, I feel like like the girls themselves, can also manipulate QB, because he's not gonna lie to them. If they want to know something and they ask him, he's gonna tell them. And I feel like it's a mutual relationship, but at the same time it's a relationship in which they probably don't want to be in the first place. So yeah, the fact that QB has such a unique character design is definitely a very positive aspect about Madoka. And like I said, I'm sure it's been done before, but this is the first time I've actually seen it done extremely well. And by extremely well, I mean in a sense where he is an integral part of Madoka. Take out QB and you don't really have Madoka, to be honest. I mean, in Madoka, just as much as it needs its titular character, Kaname Madoka, it also needs QB. The anime didn't really need any other character besides QB and Madoka. That's how important he is. And like I said, I keep repeating this, but without him, Madoka wouldn't be the same. So obviously that's a really good thing about the anime, the fact that the presence of QB. Like I said, I know a lot of people hate him. I don't hate him. In fact, I kind of like him. But then again, that's because sometimes I can be a heartless asshole. And to be honest, I personally did not like the attitudes of the girls. Understandably, they're middle school girls, so they're gonna act rather immature. Sometimes some of them can display very high levels of extreme maturity, not immaturity, but maturity. But most of the time, they were just like, I was just like, ugh, like, why? Why do you act this way? Like, you knew this was coming to you, or we all knew this was coming to you. It's like, my God, have you never watched a magical girl anime yourself? In any case, moving on. Another positive aspect about Madoka that I can think of right off the bat here is their powers. I find their powers to be very fascinating. Some of them are kind of like generic, I want to say, like Sayaka's sword power is pretty generic, and possibly even Kyoko's spear to a certain extent. But I'll talk about each character's kind of power design individually. The most fascinating one I felt was Mami's. And I know Mami is a very popular character in the Madoka franchise, and I can understand why. Mami's power or to be able to summon an infinite amount of muskets. Like, who thought of that? Apparently, according to the wiki here, Madoka was produced. The character designs were designed by Ume Aoki. So, assuming that Ume Aoki was the one who produced these, which I'm assuming is going to be the case. Damn, that's honestly, that's really clever. Or not really clever, but that's cool. That's definitely cool. I don't think I've ever seen another character whose power is to specifically summon any amount, any shape, and any size of musket that the Mami wants. I was just mind blown by that. I was like, damn, I can't believe I didn't think of this myself either. It's kind of like infinite, unlimited blade works, except it's unlimited musket works. That's basically it. And I know there's one gif, or gif, however you say it, of Mami the scene in episode 3 where she basically drops, I think, around 30 or so muskets all around her, and she just takes each one of them, or all of them, one by one, and fires them off like one by one in a giant volley. So the fact that she can do that is, just fanboying over that. Next, after that, I feel like I really like Homura's power of not only stopping time, but also having that shield in which she can store any amount of guns. But at the same time, it's kind of like, while I discuss these powers, it's like, how do they get these? Like, I understand, like, part of the powers is directly connected to their wish. Madoka wishes to save her best friend, Madoka. Did I say it right? No, Homura wishes to save her best friend Magica, and as a direct result, her power is to be able to not only jump time but also stop time, basically stop time magic. And the one aspect about her power that I don't understand, like where it came from, is the fact that she can hide any amount of weaponry into that shield of hers. I thought that what's within reasonable boundaries at least, is that her shield is the mechanism that she uses in order to jump world parallels and stop time and do whatever she wants time related. But the anime never really explains where she got the power to, shove any amount of weapons into that damn shield of hers. She stuffs in freaking bombs for days. She shoves a fuel tanker into that thing. Like, how does that thing do that? The anime never explains that. And I was talking about this with my friend Protagonist, who is a very big fan of this anime as well, and he says that in other, derivative works, it does explain. I believe he said that it does explain, like, each character's powers individually and in depth, but he didn't really. I don't know. I haven't really found them yet, so I'm still kind of stuck in the dark. Like, how did they get those powers? Like, at least some aspects of them. Mami's too, as cool as her musket power is, it's like, what dictates that? How did you get that? Because a common theme of any anime that's related to, like, people having superpowers and whatnot, their powers probably directly relate to who they are, or what they wished for, or what they want, something along the lines of that. So the fact that Madoka never really explains that, it's kind of like a question mark to me. I want to know. I want to know where they got that. I want to know how they, got around to obtain those powers, and it'd be very nice if I could at least know. I think I'm drinking my amp here again. But yeah, ignoring that though, Homura's power I'd say is my second favorite. The third favorite I'd have to say is, let's see, there we have Kyoko, Madoka, and Sayaka left. I'd have to say Sayaka. Oh no, not Sayaka, sorry. I'm confusing them. Kyoko. Kyoko, the spear, it's been used before, having a spear related power has been done before. But the fact that Kyoko's spear can also break apart into individual chain links, and she can use it like a whip, that's cool. That's definitely cool. And I think I've seen it done before. But the fact that it's not like a generic power really fascinates me. I really like the fact that Kyoko has that I guess breakable spear, for lack of a better term. She can, use it as a spear. She can break it apart and use it like a whip. It's cool, and I definitely am a big fan of that. Personally, I also really like Kyoko's character design. I don't know. I think that I like the voice actor too. For something about her kind of makes me attracted towards her character design specifically. Well, after Homura, of course. After Homura, then Kyoko would be my second favorite character in terms of just general character analysis. Maybe it's because she's tsundere a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I've been influenced by too many fan artists, but whatever. In any case, I really like Kyoko's design. But her power is really, really cool too. Next, I'd have to say Sayaka. Sayaka's power, not her sword power, not the fact that she's able to summon as many swords as she wants and spam them, but her what her wish grants her as a side power. It's the anime says that her regeneration rate is insane, and I really like the fact that they add that in as a direct result of her wish of reviving or restore or healing Kamijo, her crush, her boyfriend, basically unreciprocated boyfriend, to put it depressingly. I really like that. I really like how the anime made that connection. And she, as part of her power, she can either heal other people or she can heal herself, like at insane rates that most magical, not even magical, other magical girls can compete with. That power alone makes me kind of like her power over Madoka's. And to be honest with you, the only reason why I don't like Madoka's power, or I like it the least among these five girls, is the fact that at the very end, the anime makes her out to be some sort of uber powered magical girl, because obviously the anime kind of built her up to be one. And the fact that she was able to destroy the world's worst witch that her former human self became, with just like with their power, and the fact that the animation anyway of her destroying all the witches by shooting all those arrows into the like directly into the past. Only reason why I don't like it is because she was meant to do that. I don't really like that. I feel like if she could have done that on her own accord, like if she was originally able to do that by herself without having Madoka, or no, not Madoka, Homura's intervention of making her out to be an overpowered magical girl, to be honest with you, to put it frankly, by constantly screwing with the parallel universes, I would have appreciated her power more. But the fact that she's an artificially built character, or in terms of her power and ability design, is what makes me appreciate her character, her power the least. I'm sorry to say, but that's just kind of that's my reasoning for not liking hers as much as the others. But yeah, overall, I really like how the powers design worked out for each of the characters, and really like that. So the three big main points: QB, power design, and what is it? The overall tendency of Madoka to explain the dirty truth behind, or one of them anyway, behind one of the magical worlds. Now on to the things that I really, really dislike, or varying degrees of do not want about Madoka. Damn, how long I've been talking about? I usually talk for a long time. 40 minutes? Okay. Let's see here. Right off the bat, I can tell you that what I do not like about Madoka is the fact that it is overwhelmingly depressing. Like, I don't know if other people agree with me on this one topic or not, but I feel like Madoka is just, ugh. There is no happy ending. None. Nobody ends, the anime does not end with anyone being happy at all. And I mean, I can understand, it's Gen Urobuchi. Gen Urobuchi is gonna, make every single person suffer. Or, as many people as he can anyway. But I don't know. As much as I, can understand watching characters suffer for their own mistakes, having the author go out of their way to make each and every character suffer the way they do is like, okay, you're a fucking douchebag, aren't you? So, I mean, I never really liked Gen Urobuchi to begin with. I mean, story-wise, he's excellent. He's fantastic, and I can completely understand why he's renowned for the stories that he writes. But judging from what my friend protagonist says, of course, I have yet to verify this. I don't know if my friend is just bullshitting me or whatnot, but apparently protagonist tells me that Gen Urobuchi had released a quote stating that he specifically states that he never intends for Sayaka to have a happy ending. Like specifically, he singles out Miki Sayaka and tells everyone that, hey, look, I'm not going to let Sayaka ever have a happy ending. I'm never going to let her hook up with Kamijo ever, and she's going to suffer for all eternity. Now that's just being a fucking douche, don't you think? When the author hates his own character, that's when you know that, you know, it's just like, why? Just why? It's not to say that, oh, I'm trying to take anything away from the actual anime itself. That's part of the reason why Madoka is so good. But personally speaking, being that cruel to a particular character, let alone all the characters, is kind of like, okay, well, at least have someone be happy. Because if you think about it, no one is happy. Sayaka is doomed to never hook up with Kamijo, her boyfriend, her crush. She's always going to use her wish on him, but never have the courage to ask him out on a date and tell her what she really feels. Partly because I feel like she's a coward and she is basically a pussy, and secondly because she feels that, understandably, if she tells him that she likes him, then he's going to be committed to her, but she no longer being human can't really live with him in a human-like manner, and possibly that's one of the big reasons why Sayaka can't feel she can really get together with Kamijo ever again. It's pretty ironic that what she does is that she revives, she heals him in an effort to make him happy, and in a slight sense, you could probably sense this, I did anyway, that she also wanted him to get better so that she could tell him what she felt about him and confess to him basically and be together with him. Unfortunately, by doing that, she basically fucked herself and made it so that, hey, look, oh shit, I basically made it so that I can never get with him ever again, and if I do, then I'm kind of a douchebag for doing that. I really like using the word douchebag today, don't I? Anyways, but she's never gonna be happy. Kyoko is always gonna die trying to save, Sayako to a certain extent, I think. Or actually, in the latest timeline, I don't really know what ends up happening to Kyoko. Nor do I really know what ends up happening to Mami. Because in the true timeline, does anyone even survive other than Madoka? I'm going to assume everyone dies. That's, to be honest, I'm going to assume everyone dies. Because in the true timeline, that's when Madoka confronts Homura, and that's after Kyoko dies. That's after Sayaka dies, that's after Mami dies. So yeah, let's assume that everyone dies. Mami is gonna stay decapitated by Charlie, who rips her head off, or basically bites her head off. Let's see, like I said, Kyoko's always gonna die trying to save Sayaka, but failing, and instead just dies with her anyway. Madoka, it's kind of hard for me to decide who has worse fate, Madoka or Homura. If you take a look at each one of them, in depth, Madoka stops being human. She can no longer interact with her friend Madoka, or for that matter, anyone on a human level. Like I said, her soul, or basically the concept of Kaname Madoka transcends human perception, and she can only be discerned in a conceptual form, sort of how humans today in our world view God. It's the same relationship, or a very similar one, to be at the very least. So she's doomed never to be able to talk with anyone else ever again, because she's a god. She's going to be with everyone, but at the same time she can't really communicate with anyone by herself. And I feel like that really sucks. For a human to become a god, I feel like that directly violates a natural law in a very vague sense. This is just my opinion. I know other people have opinions on this as well, but for me, if a human were to ever become immortal in the sense that they become a concept, that will suck. That basically is damning yourself. You are damning yourself to an eternity of not being able to talk to anyone, not being able to interact with anyone. You are only sitting there just aimlessly watching everything else unfold before you. You know everything that's going to happen. You know everything that's going to happen, that has happened, everything that's going to happen. I think I've just repeated myself a couple times. That must be insanely boring. Like, I must hate to be in a position. I would not want to be God in that sense if I was to be in Madoka's shoes. So she's gonna be stuck there in all eternity, not being able to do whatever she wants to do. Homura is the only one who knows the truth about what happened because she is existing on a different plane, a plane that which can access any timeline she wants, but not really fully be a part of it. And only QB can really communicate with her, and even then QB wasn't really there. She can only tell him what happened, and QB can only really trust Homura that she's telling the truth. And QB, because he can't really think of any other explanation as to why all the witches were suddenly eliminated from the world, needs to, rely on Homura's account of what really happened between her and Madoka, and what Madoka did to the world. In that sense as well, Homura is alone. And even though, Madoka says that, we'll be ever together, she tells Homura that, we'll always be together, I'm a god, I will always be with you because I'm a concept. It's just, no. It's kind of like Homura has become a believer in Christianity, and Madoka is God in that sense. It sounds kind of blasphemous to some very religious people, but for lack of a better analogy, that's basically it. Homura can pray to Madoka. Homura can try to talk to Madoka. But as much as she knows that Madoka is listening to her, she can never directly communicate with her. Madoka is never able to talk with her directly, interact with her directly, and basically they can't act like normal friends anymore. And in that sense, I do believe that both Madoka and Homura are very much so in solitude. They are alone, and they cannot really interact with anyone. Homura can at least interact with QB, but Homura probably still hates QB for fucking ever, for what he stands for and what he is. But at least she has someone to talk with, someone or something. She got that furball to talk with at the very least. Other than that, though, she is the only one who knows about the truth behind the demons and whatnot. And I believe because all the witches were destroyed, like past, present, and future, she's the only such quote-unquote magical girl, I think. I may be wrong. There may be still magical girls in existence in the true timeline after Madoka destroys all the witches. But, whichever the case, Madoka is going to be the very last magical girl standing, in my opinion. In the last cutscenes of both the anime and the first movie adaptation, Homura is depicted, I would assume, what is to be the end of the world, fighting the endless waves of demons, and she becomes a witch because she is the anomaly. She, like I mentioned before, she exists, or her existence is based on a separate, unique plane that she's basically made herself out to be. And she is the one exception to Madoka's law of there will be no witches, because if in the end you can clearly tell she becomes a witch herself, and she eventually dies fighting the endless waves of demons that will always come out to destroy the world and wreak havoc. And Homura dies doing that, and she knows that's a futile cause, but she dies fighting anyway, presumably. And that's pretty depressing though, isn't it? She's always going to fight a losing battle. She's always going to, no matter how hard she tries, just like she did while she was fighting the Walpurgisnacht or whatever the hell it's called, she's always going to be fighting those demons. She's always going to die, or she's always going to kill them all just to have more spawn and come after her, or either her or the world. And she needs to do that over and over, rinse and repeat. And eventually she's going to just fall, her heart is going to fall into despair of, because she's human, she's eventually going to have a breaking point. She cannot fight for forever. She cannot fight forever, even though she's immortal. She's still human. Her mentality is still that of a middle school girl, and eventually she's going to crumble. She's going to crack. She's going to die. And you know, every single person in this damn anime is going to suffer a horrible, horrible fate. And if some, depending on your perspective, some worse than others. I feel like Sayaka's got, the worst off because, even the freaking author hates her. Or says that she's going to never, get a happy ending. And that kind of sucks when even the author hates you. There should be like some sort of counter fourth wall. But anyways, so yeah, I've elaborated for the past 13 minutes the main reason why I do not like Madoka. Why does the author feel like he needs to hate his own characters? That's a little bit going much, isn't it? But the author is the author. We can't really do much against it. We can't really do much, about it. So, moving on. Another thing that I didn't really like about Madoka, like I mentioned before, this is just briefly going over this, but the anime never really specified the true origins, like how the magical girl system depicts or first assigns powers to the magical girls. Like, where did Homura's the weapon shield come from? How is it able to fit a fucking fuel tanker into that thing, into the size of Homura's arm? Like, what the hell? How do you do that? It's like, please explain. And that, and where did Mommy's power come from? I'd really like to know what happened with Mommy. Like, we only understand that Mommy got into a car accident where she was about to die, and QB came up to her and says, oh, hey, look, I'll let you live if you become a magical girl. And Mommy, about being, near death and not having much of a choice, went ahead and contracted with him. That sounds really dirty. But, like, how did that come to happen? How exactly did she come to get her musket power? I'm really interested in that. And why did Madoka get an arrow-based power? Why did she get how did she get a bow and arrow-based power? And all these things I'd like to know and I'd like to understand. Usually in other animes, I can't really say this generally, but I've seen other animes that explain, oh, hey, look, this is their power, this is how they've got it, and this is why they have it. Not so much for Madoka. I understand that, in a 12-episode season, there's only so much you can do to explain part of, aspects of the Madoka world, but I feel like they could have, poked that in there somewhere. I feel like they could have definitely done that, and I'm gonna try to reach out to other Madoka sources, other Madoka works, where they do explain how each character did get their powers, like how they exactly got it. But for now, that's kind of what I don't like. Now let's see. Another thing that I do not like is, I've explained this before. Perhaps you have picked up on this, but arguably the biggest thing that I hate about Madoka is its implication that humans can transcend 3D, the third dimension. Again, this is a very personal thing, but I believe that humans should not be able to physically or conceptually turn into a fourth dimension. It's just, it's weird. It's mentally and psychologically, or not really psychologically, but metaphysically, it's weird. I do not agree with that at all, for a couple reasons. First off, if a human can become a god, then that means that we are all gods or goddesses in our own right. We can also have the potential to be God, or have godlike powers. When that happens, we get to do whatever the hell we want. We get to do, our powers will be limitless. And when you have a world full of gods, when you have a world full of goddesses, you no longer have a world, because either everyone's going to destroy each other, because if you're a god, you can do whatever the hell you want. There's going to be at least one asshole who's going to say, "Oh, I wish I can destroy the universe. I wish I can destroy the world." And I hope you can hear my snap. Boom. So long, Earth. No one gets to live there anymore. Or, well, since everyone became a god, yeah. It contradicts human reality. It contradicts what humans are in terms of from a conceptual standpoint. And there's one dimension, there's the first dimension, there's the second dimension, the third dimension. Obviously, we all exist in the third dimension because humans are capable of only grasping up to 3 dimensions. From there on, 4th dimensions and above can only be perceived as mere concepts, because we haven't really gotten there, and nor will we ever really get there. Just from what we have established as what the 4th dimensions, 5th dimensions, and so forth really are. The fact that Madoka, maybe the anime makes its titular character out to eventually be so strong that she transcends human reality into becoming a goddess. It's just, then why not just turn everyone into a goddess? Why just Madoka? And I know that the anime, it does explain, because because of Homura's actions, Madoka is turned into an uber magical girl, to be honest, for lack of a better term. But I feel like if the anime can do that to Madoka, like, what is to say that, Homura can't become a goddess herself? I mean, surely she should have the power of a goddess as well, right? Because she was the one who was constantly changing timelines. I mean, the power to jump parallel universes itself is enormous. It's mind-boggling. Like, why cannot she also become a goddess herself in her own right? I don't know. That's just kind of an inconsistency that I would like to have explained. And overall, I just do not agree with the anime's implication that humans can somehow, some way, can become a god or goddesses or become a concept. Not only that, but also it must suck to be a concept, because that way everyone knows what you are, but not who you are. In other words, they'll know what you stand for, what you mean, but in a sense where you lose your humanity. To other people, you are not human. That's like thinking of, the concept of love, the concept of hate as a personification. This anime is basically all about that, towards the end anyway. It's like you were to make a person out of the concept of love and, call her love. And, you treat this person called love as an imaginary friend. That's basically what Madoka is doing. And the concepts that standard human reality have established, I feel like, are grounds that should not be broken. Because if they are broken, then what's to say that we cannot all be concepts? That's what's to say that we cannot, that one person cannot suddenly insert a certain concept, says, hey look, this is a new concept, everyone must know it. It ties in with my dislike about the anime that, its anime implies that we can all become goddesses somehow or some way. And yeah, I'm not very comfortable with that. I definitely do not like it. And I mean, of course, it's just an anime. It's not like it's a story-breaking flaw. I mean, in fact, it makes the story. In fact, that's what makes it fascinating. I do not say that it's not fascinating. In fact, I'm really intrigued by it. It's just that I'm not intrigued by it in a good way. It's like, humans, they're all human. They should all have some sort of limit to their power. And the fact that one person can become a goddess? Okay, well, if you can become a goddess, you can basically do whatever you want, right? So why just stop there? Why just stop being a concept? You can do whatever the hell you want, right? Let's see you go even further than that. Let's see you create a good end. Take that one, Urobuchi. But anyways, that's what I really don't like about Madoka. Those three things: the fact that this anime implies that humans can become goddesses, and concepts can be freely made and broken. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else that I truly dislike about the anime. Overall, all my dislikes are just related to the story itself. It's not like some major turn off that it makes me just hate the anime itself. I love this anime. I love Madoka for what it stands for, how it executes a magical girl, a very unique magical girl storyline. It's just that the problems I have with this anime are all related to the actual lore itself. And when you have a problem with the lore, then it's not so bad in my opinion. If you just don't like how the lore, what the lore implies, or what its implications are, but if you still like the anime itself and you really enjoyed it, then I think that's fine, because it opens up a whole field of debate. If you can kind of debate it with other people who have watched Madoka, and you can say, oh look, I don't like what the anime suggests about this, but in the end you're all fans of it, nevertheless. So yeah, those are the only things that I do not like about about Puella, Magi, Madoka Magica. Other than that, though, I really like this anime. This is a fantastic anime, and I'm surprised that I didn't watch this earlier. Apparently, this got aired back in January 7th of 2011. That's a long time off, and 2 years ago, in fact, over 2 years. And I can't believe I only knew about this now. That's just wow. In any case, and I believe it only started gaining momentum and popularity last year or so, because last year at Anime Expo, that was when I first started seeing a significant amount of Madoka cosplay. And when you see a lot of cosplay of a certain anime, that's when you know it's kind of gaining momentum in terms of its fandom and popularity and whatnot. But it is what it is. I definitely recommend Madoka Magica to everyone. It is definitely one of my favorite animes. It's definitely one of the best ones that I've seen out there. And if you don't watch this, then I mean, you're really missing out. I really do feel like you are definitely missing out. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this commentary. I know sometimes I'm not the best commentator. Let's face it, I'm not the best person who can talk and kind of speak out their thoughts. Because to be honest with you, I have a very bad tendency to just ramble on and on about things. But some of you may like this style, some of you may not. If you guys have enjoyed this, then thank you very much for listening for all this time. If you guys are even, listening to this last part. And definitely go check out Madoka. It's like I said, one of my favorite animes. And like I said, if you don't watch it, you're missing out. You're missing out on a fantastic story. You guys are missing out on some extremely badass moments. I'd have to say that episode 3 of Mami doing her unlimited musket works, and the what is it? I forgot the exact episode number, but the episode where Homura fights the wall person knocked by herself with all those weapons. You need more Daka, Homura. You don't have enough. The fact that she does that, it's amazing. It's awesome. I just had nerdgasms all over the place doing that. It's just ugh, my keyboard, I need to clean it off now. Anyways, that got really graphic really fast. Anyways, so yes, thank you guys very much for listening to this review of Madoka Magica. Definitely go check it out. Definitely. And so, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys very much for watching for the third time, and I'll see you guys later. Yukuri shite.